So super singles and duals, this is my truck behind me. Now I have ran both of those, and in this video I'm gonna talk about what I'm running now and why, so stick around. So before we get into the video, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by Trucker Tools. It is quickly becoming the #1 app for all truck drivers. So if you haven't downloaded it, download it today. Check it out. It has all kinds of tools, no matter if you're an owner operator or a company driver. But in my opinion, it is going to be the #1 app in all of trucking apps, and it is very, very quickly rising to the top. So anyway, it is so cold out here right now. We're gonna take this inside. So let's get into it. But first, I need to go over a little bit of backstory about myself, why I'm kind of qualified to talk about this, and then I'm going to point you in the direction of something else. If you've been around the channel for a while, you probably know where you're headed. And then we're gonna get into the points of why I'm doing now what I'm doing. So we're gonna get into a little bit of the history. So some of the history is that I have been driving a truck for, we're approaching 8 years now. And for the first, five and a half years, I was running duals. So running those duals, not, just as a company driver. It wasn't a fancy truck. I've had Pro Stars, I've had Cascadias, and the duals did well. Okay. It wasn't, they weren't fancy trucks, they were short wheelbase trucks, but everything was fine, and I did a lot of driving in the Northwest for a good portion of that 5.5 years. I was up there twice a month, and then beyond that, it was just once a month. So I've done a lot of winter driving, and the duals were fine, they were good. I don't know, no complaints. And then whenever I went to purchase my truck, which I'm not going to get into that story, but the truck that I wound up purchasing did have super singles on it. And I was very skeptical. I wasn't interested in super singles. If you blow out a tire, you're kind of screwed, and you're stuck there on the side of the road. And I didn't want to deal with all of these things, especially being an owner op, because if we get stuck or whatever happens, we're out of pocket for that money. But as I drove it longer and longer, my mindset changed quite a bit. It became more positive. Super singles, you really just need to pay attention and maintain them properly. Make sure that you have good PSI in them. Make sure there's not, any chunks of metal in them that can work their way down. If you just do the things that you really need to do to take care of your tires, then the super singles are actually fine. Now, that being said, if you have a dummy axle, which is one of the things that I have on my truck, super singles I don't think are for you. Unless you can dump the air in that dummy axle and put more pressure on the other tires. But, in my experience, they're still not as good as duals. I guess I just let the cat out of the bag. So anyway, back to the story. So as I was driving these super singles, I didn't really have too terribly much issue. I would get stuck in places that I felt like I shouldn't, but I kind of knew that, and I really thought that I was blaming that on the dummy axle. Well, I got stuck one too many times last year, and towards the very end of the year, I said, you know what, had enough. I'm putting duals back on, and I don't care if I get better traction or not. I'm just gonna try them out. I got stuck in a couple of truck stops towards the end of last year, and whenever I would get stuck, whenever I'd just park overnight, I couldn't move the next morning, and people, I would see them driving off, and it was frustrating me. So I decided to make that move. It is an expensive move, but I decided that it was worth my time to do that, and I cannot be more happy about that decision. I can't even explain to you how happy that I am that I did that. I got to thinking about it, and I think that one of the biggest things is when you lose traction on one of those super singles, you lose traction to the entire wheel. The entire wheel is gone. Versus on the duals, if you lose traction on one wheel, that other wheel may still have traction. It may not, but it might still have traction. So I think that's one of the things. And then of course you're covering a wider, a little bit wider area. There is more rolling resistance, which is technically more traction, and just overall it is better for traction. Also on my truck, I added one aluminum wheel and one steel wheel. I had the studs long enough to do 2 aluminum wheels, but I wanted a little bit extra weight just for that more traction, since I've gone without it for so long. So since I have had these duals, I haven't been stuck once, and everything has been wonderful. My traction has improved. I could tell when I drove out of the shop, whenever I put these duals on, that I had better traction immediately. Coming from someone that has driven both, and driven both recently, I do feel like I can give a very solid opinion on what is better. Duals for the win. So, you know, am I against super singles? No, I'm not going to say that. I just feel like in the majority of situations, the duals are going to work out better. If you're always running light, if you kind of get to choose where you're, you know, where you're going to go, you're never necessarily in a huge hurry, or let's say you're in a team environment where you're not really going to lose time from being down generally, then super singles are a great option. They save you some money. You do get better fuel mileage. I will say they are a smoother ride. But in most applications, for most of us, and especially the, you know, the owner operators that we pay all of our expenses, then I'm gonna have to lean towards duals. I'm gonna say that duals are definitely better. There you have it. There's my, you know, there's my spiel. Don't forget to download Trucker Tools today. I appreciate all you guys. Hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. Check out this video right here if you want to see my mindset kind of before, whenever I was running those super singles, and I forgot, I guess, what duals were like. Check that video out right there. But as always, stay driven.